ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, this is Arlene and you're listening to our ASEAN Daily. So, the breaking news today. Around the world, babies and children are among the 34 deaths in the new migrant tragedy of Greece. A total of 34 bodies have been pulled from the Sea of Greece after a boat carried scores of migrants capsized yesterday. And on the other hand, a lot of heartbreaking stories regarding refugees and migrants. But unfortunately, Germany, even though it has opened its doors towards refugees, but as crisis escalates, Berlin says refugees cannot choose where to live. Germany temporarily introduced border controls yesterday in a bid to stem the flow of thousands of refugees arriving every day, as senior ministers in Chancellor Angela Merkel's government said that the crisis was pushing Germany to its limits. Europe's largest and richest economy has been a magnet for many people fleeing war and poverty in Syria and other parts of the Middle East and Africa. Police has said that around 13,000 migrants arrived in Munich alone 2 days ago, and around another 4,500 people have arrived already on Sunday. But the biggest question is, when it comes to Europe, where are the other European countries to shoulder the refugee problems? There's a huge question that Europe need to face, because the problem itself is global. It's not just refugees coming from Syria, but all over the world seeking for shelter, for a new home in Europe. And Europe needs to address this to the roots. On the other hand, talking about politics in ASEAN, so China-ASEAN Forum will be held to boost cyberspace development. China will work closely with ASEAN countries to turn the China-ASEAN Information Harbor into an information hub and share the achievements of cyberspace development. This is according to Lu Wei, Minister of the Cyberspace Administration of China, CAC, yesterday. And on the other hand, talking about partnership, Australia has just launched Australia-Asean Council. The Australian Minister for Foreign Affairs, the Honourable Julie Bishop, launched the Australian-Asean Council, an Australian government initiative to strengthen links with the countries of Southeast Asia. And the Australian-ASEAN Council will shape Australia's engagement with this region and strengthen partnerships through stronger business, education, science, arts, and cultural links. It will also work closely with the new Colombo plant and Australia alumni networks to facilitate ongoing links between individuals and organizations. The Honourable Julie Bishop also announced that Ms. Christine Holgate, CEO and Managing Director of Blackmores, will be appointed chair of the council. Ms. Holgate has extensive experience working in Asia, Europe, the Americas, and Australia, bringing stronger leadership and knowledge of Australia's trade interests in Southeast Asia to the role. Anyway, we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll discuss more about what's happening in Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back. This is Arlene. So, talking about news in Myanmar. Myanmar lawyers are joining together with a growing ribbon protest over military. The Myanmar lawyers posed solemnly for the social media picture wearing ribbon pinned prominently to their jackets or shirts, a new symbol of defiance as public servants increasingly voice opposition to the military's dominance of public services. Following the footsteps of successful black ribbon selfie campaign by medical staff in recent weeks, lawyers in several major cities have started pinning yellow ribbons to their official black jackets and launched an online campaign in protest at army appointments in the Supreme Court. They said one of the person that they interview, a lawyer, 36-year-old, his name is Cho Myo Tu. He said that we want to show we do not support the appointment of military officers in the judiciary. He has joined many lawyers with a growing campaign in Yangon this week. He also cited that the continued recruitment of former military officers in position of power would only serve to reinforce the widespread belief that justice was at the whim of the elites in Myanmar. To further add salt to the injury, Myanmar rights body urges action against police over student crackdown. It seems like the students are becoming louder in terms of voices, but when it comes to the authorities, they are also getting harder, cracking down towards these student movements. Myanmar National Human Rights Body has urged the government to take legal actions against police who beat up protesters, mostly are students, at an education reform rally, as dozens of activists remain detained over a case that has sparked international alarm. The crackdown on March protests came as scores marched to meet fellow activists in Yangon as they call for changes to the country's education laws, including decentralizing the school system, allowing student unions, and teaching in ethnic minority languages. In June, Myanmar's parliament approved amendments to a controversial bill, including approving student unions, but without adopting the central activist demand on decentralization. Unfortunately, a total of 81 activists are facing trial with a few dozen granted bail. Going down to Singapore, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong to form new cabinet over next 2 weeks. With a PAP overwhelming win, the last election in Singapore last week, and as the general election is over, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said his immediate priority would be to form the cabinet and find the right person to fill in the transport minister hot seat. Not only will the incoming transport minister have to understand and grasp technical knowledge about the trains and buses and how to keep them running efficiently, he or she will also have to deal with political aspects. Minister would need to communicate with the people and get them to understand and accept what needs to be done, such as raising fares from time to time and what is being done if service breaks down. And we all know that in Singapore recently that a lot of the train service has been breaking down quite frequently. So there you go. On the other hand, when Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong was asked how he hopes Singaporean will work with the government in the years ahead, he noted that there are several ways to do this. He cited that our Singapore Conversation series, where Singaporeans will engage to brainstorm for ideas that influence policy in areas such as housing, medical care, or opportunities for young people, among others. He said that it is a lot of work. They have to discuss, to engage, and to think what it really means, then make the effort. Singaporeans can't just sit back and go on coffee shop conversation. There's some value in that, but to take it to the next step forward, Singaporeans have to put in a considerable effort in it. This is according to Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. We'll take another short break. When we return, we will talk more on the economic side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back. This is Arlene. So talking about economics, we can't help but to focus on Indonesia because Jokowi is taking his first shot at economic reform. President Jokowi Widodo has announced a comprehensive package of reforms aimed at reducing inflation and stabilizing the exchange rate, stimulating demand through deregulations and direct support, with a special focus on creating more jobs in small and medium enterprises, or in short SMEs, and across urban and rural communities. The reform will come into effect this Tuesday or tomorrow by 15 September 2015. And what we are seeing right now is Indonesia is not really suffering a major economic meltdown, but growth is lackluster. It's steady. Inflation is relatively high, but under control. And there has been no major shock to the labor market. But, and this is a big but, economic growth is lower than under Jokowi's predecessor, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, and we all know that it wasn't that good as well under Susilo. So the microeconomic situation is weaker, unfortunately, under Jokowi than when Jokowi came to power almost 12 months ago. Growth is running at around 4.5% and not the 5 to 6% of earlier years. To reduce inflation and stabilize the exchange rate, Bank Indonesia proposed a wide range of reforms. It includes more collaboration with regional governments and control local prices in terms of beef prices, and reduce rupiah instability through secondary and bonds markets, the import bans and controls of a range of basic food commodities, which have recently been the main impact on inflation, were not addressed directly in the reform package. To improve the domestic supply of foreign currency, in fact, foreign nationals will no longer need special permission to open bank accounts in foreign currency up to a limit of $50,000 US. And on the other hand, talking about the petroleum market, government in Cambodia is taking an active role as global oil prices plummeted over the past year. The price of gas at the pump in Cambodia has seen as much slower fall. And this week, 7 major gas companies operating in the country again agreed to lower their prices, but only after a request from the Commons Minister in Cambodia. Earlier this year, the minister said it would meet with gas retailers every 10 days to ensure their prices remain in line with global trends. And now, the ministry says it is drafting a law on competition that will give it the power to investigate cases in which firms seen to be manipulating the market at the expense of consumers, according to the Secretary of State, Mao Tora. So far, according to them, they don't have any evidence to accuse fuel companies of creating a cartel because they need to have an official committee who goes down to inspect them. This is what Mr. Tora had expressed. And until the government has the legal authority to take action, Mr. Tora said the Commerce Minister in Cambodia would continue its efforts to protect consumers. We will take a short break. When we return, we will discuss on the social and cultural side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene. You're with me again on the ASEAN Daily, talking about socio-cultural. And again, we are still with Cambodia. It is determined to nurture basketball talent. Apparently, the surge in interest in basketball among Cambodians in recent years, as evidenced by the turnout at the annual Cambodia Basketball League finals, has prompted the Sports Cambodian Federation to promote the creation of a female team to compete in international competitions. How great is that? We definitely want to wish all the best, and definitely looking forward to Cambodia having a more robust basketball championship, especially in the women's wing. And on the other hand, Singapore is having its Grand Prix, but his concerns before F1 night scare, a cloud of smoke hanging over Singapore, is being monitored by organizers of next week's Grand Prix, and hopefully by next week that we can enjoy a successful F1 race rather than a more haze-filled F1 race. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for listening, and you can always tune in to duranasian.com to listen to our podcast and to, of course, enjoy all the articles and write-ups that we have and news from Southeast Asia. But you can also go to our social media and interact with us. We always have fresh news every day. And if you are on the go, you can always download our app, Duran ASEAN app, by going to the App Store and listen to us anywhere, everywhere.